Hey, everybody. I just want to give you a brief overview about how the ACT versus the SAT math is laid out on the exams to help you understand what to expect. And perhaps this will help you see which one may be able to fit your lifestyle better. Okay, so I have two diagrams here. The one on the left is the ACT and the one on the right is the SAT. Notice if we start in the top right-hand corner of both the diagrams, you see that both exams permit you to use a calculator. However, the SAT only permits you to use a calculator with one of the math sections. The other math section it has is without a calculator use. Whereas the ACT allows you to use the calculator the entire exam. In the lower right-hand corner, you'll see question comparison. The ACT has 60 questions on it, and the SAT between both sections has 58. You got about 80 minutes on the SAT total and 60 minutes total on the ACT. And that works out to about one question per minute on the ACT and about 1 minute 37 seconds on the SAT. However, once you look at some of the examples, you'll see that you don't need to spend a minute on every question. Some of them are very quick and you can answer them in 20 seconds. Now, how is the exams organized? The ACT is organized from the perspective questions 1 through 30. You begin with basic consumer-based mathematics, progressing into some pre-algebra, intermediate algebra topics, algebra 1 in the middle. And then after question number 30, 31 to 60, you're going to see more algebra 2, and then an influx of some trig identities, which you would catch in pre-cal. That's a linear order on the ACT math. The SAT math, well, it's really simple. It's randomly organized. You just don't know what you're going to get at first. It may be the toughest question, or it may be just a very consumer-based, easy question where you have to calculate, the income tax, the tax on a shirt when you purchase it from a department store. Okay. Next, I've laid this out with the ideology of showing you how perimeter is being expressed. And from the left to the right, I've got it laid out from the most simplistic point of view to increasing in the conceptuality in the middle, and then finally on the right with a graph where it's a lot more complex. This is the order that you would see, for instance, perimeter to be tested on the ACT. Now, on the SAT, you may start with the graph instead of the written paragraph, looking for the perimeter. Okay, so let's take them one at a time. The question on the left, it says, what is the perimeter of the rectangle in feet when you know the length of the rectangle is 12 and the width is half of that? Well, half of 12 is 6, right? So 12, 12, and 12, 36, that would be I. The perimeter would be 36 inches. Answer choice I. Now, look at the square with the circle inscribed in it. We want to know the perimeter of the square. What do we have in front of us? We have in front of us the radius of the circle being 2 inches. We can leverage the radius by extending it across the circle to make the diameter. The diameter then will reflect the length of one side of the square. So the diameter becomes 4 inches. Each side of the square is 4 inches, giving us a total perimeter of 16. Now, finally, as you progress along on the ACT towards the end of the test, you come into a question like the one I have with the graph, where you have a rectangle beneath the line of y is equal to square root of x plus 4. Now, the left hand side of the rectangle and the line share a point together, an xy value. That equation represents the y value at that particular point. So therefore, that y value would, if it was a number, would represent the distance from the line all the way to the x-axis on the left side of the rectangle. Since we don't have numbers to put into the equation therefore represents the length of the rectangle. Well, with that in mind, what is the width of the rectangle? Well, if you look at the x-axis, notice that the origin to the left, all the way over to the right side of the rectangle, is a distance of 5. And the distance from the origin to the first side of the rectangle is x distance. If we take and start with 5 and subtract out the x distance, that's going to leave the width of the rectangle remaining. So therefore, the width can be described by creating the equation 5 minus x. Okay. The perimeter equation is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So now we're going to substitute the length, the square root of x plus 4, and the width of 5 minus x into the equation. And then we're going to begin to simplify it. Now, we can completely simplify it, get all like terms combined, or we can leave it in either one of these fashions to represent the perimeter of that rectangle. Notice there's no single number calculation like we had in the word problem or in the problem with the circle inscribed in the square. It's an expression that represents the perimeter of that rectangle. That particular type of question is probably one of the more advanced types of questions that you're going to see on both the SAT or the ACT. Now, imagine taking the SAT with all these just jumbled up in a mess. You could get the question with the graph first, or you could get the question with a paragraph first. You just don't know what you're going to get right out of the box. So with that being said, the ACT has a little bit more stability in it because it kind of gives students a warm-up. It progresses them through a series of math that's a little bit more linear in thinking versus just being hit with a question that could be one of the most advanced questions that you've seen at the first of the test on the SAT. Okay, I hope that gives you a little information about how the math exams approach presenting the same ideology the timing, the use of the calculator, and how it's laid out. Always know what you're getting involved in before you go take that test. Hope you have a great day.